Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching Darcey and Tom on 90 Day Fiancé. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor, and let's see what kind of reactions I have to watching this TV show.
I just want you to be happy in the end, and I want you to have your relationship to go well. Maybe I could add the ring, but I would never demand anything like that. I'm not desperate. I mean, you got engaged after 2 weeks, but we're still, engaged, and we're still. That's great. Together, which is fine. That's wonderful. I don't think no time limit on being engaged or getting married. A good year and a half tops.
So we're starting to see that competition once again, which is unfortunate to see. You would like to hope that twins and siblings could support each other. There's no reason why they need to be attacking each other in very small ways right now. It just makes me wonder the history of their relationship and how their family of origin was organized when they were children.
Missed your voice. I haven't really heard much from you.
In fairness, it hasn't been great, has it? This long distance thing, it kind of just doesn't fit somehow.
For you, I don't know, maybe I'm from a different mindset. Like, if you love somebody, you'll do whatever it takes to be with that person. I mean, I would like to have more time with you, more communication, but I feel like you don't.
Maybe.
Yikes. So that is concerning. She is saying, I would like more communication with you. It seems like you don't really want that. And he's like, maybe. Now, it is very common if these two people have preoccupied attachment and avoidant attachment, as we might speculate, but of course we can't know because we're only given the information that is provided to us through the producers and the cameras and whatnot. But when you have a preoccupied person so it's possible Darcey does have preoccupied attachment where you really lean into relationships, you pursue a lot, and you have Tom, who might be someone who might find themselves to be avoidant attachment, where you tend to be more independent and a little wary of letting people in because you're worried about being hurt. When you have that pursuer-distancer dynamic because of preoccupation avoidant, it's not uncommon for the preoccupied person to feel this way, like, I'm reaching out to you, you're not reaching back to me. One of the things, and I may have said this before, is a litmus test to see if you are preoccupied is how often have you felt like you texted someone and they didn't text you back as soon as you would like them to, particularly your romantic partner. If you feel that way sometimes, it's almost a sure indication of preoccupation. I shouldn't say that. That's a red flag for a preoccupied attachment, meaning pursuing, leaning in, worried about abandonment, chronically worried about that. As a litmus test for avoidance, if you have frequently been told that you don't get back to people in time, by multiple people, not just one person in your life, then it's a red flag for avoidant attachment, because you get a text and to respond is to be dependent, to be vulnerable, and the defense style of the avoidant person is to not extend yourself because you wait for people to come to you. If they chase you long enough, then you'll allow yourself to be caught. So we might be seeing a dynamic between these two people. I can't know without assessing them. But if that is happening, that could be an indication that Tom actually does still have a lot of love for Darcey, or it could also mean that he doesn't and that he's drifting away, because when you are worried about extending yourself, that can apply to long-distance relationships in a lot of ways. So let's see what happens.
Communication is key, and I respect you.
But I feel as though you don't. That's the problem. I feel when I say to you, I'm in a business meeting, I'll call you later, and then I get 1,500 text messages. That's not you respecting me.
So it's very common conflict between a preoccupied person and an avoidant person. The avoidant person will be in a meeting and they want their space. That's a very frequent thing that an avoidant person wants. It's also normal to want your space, but avoidant people, one, they tend to push people away so much that the other people get anxious. Like if you're not preoccupied and you're with an avoidant person, you might become kind of preoccupied because of the amount of distance that they exhibit with you. That complaint I've heard in my office from couples so many times, where the preoccupied person will reach out to the avoidant person while the avoidant person is at work. Maybe they're both working and they're over GChat or whatever people use these days, and they're like, hey, what's up? And then a couple hours later, I'm in meetings, and then 15 texts, and then the avoidant person is like, ugh, 15 texts? I'm at work. Give me a break. Can't we talk after work? And then the avoidant person will actually not reply because they just want to send a message of like, I'm not at your beck and call. Like, you need to learn how to deal with things on your own. I can't be in this constant state of having to worry about responding. And what avoidant people will sometimes do eventually is they'll say a lot of things like, oh, I didn't know where my phone was, or I turned my phone off, or my ringer was off or something, even though the avoidant person absolutely did know that their spouse was calling or texting. But they just want to give this impression like, look, you can't invade my space, because it really can feel that way to the avoidant person. And in the same way that if you're not avoidant and you're with a preoccupied person, you can still feel invaded. But that's how these two things fit together, is that as the avoidant person distances, it triggers the preoccupied person's fears, and they get anxious and they start pursuing, which causes more avoidance, because it's like, hey, get away from me. You're invading my space. You're making me feel uncomfortable. And unless they have a way of mitigating that and making it not run away with itself, the pursuer-distancer relationship can cause a lot of conflict and relationship dissolution. So let's see if they can manage it.
Try.
If you ring me at 4 o'clock in the morning and then send me 50 messages
don't
saying,
send that. Can you?
I can't ring people at 5 a.m.
It's long distance.
There's so much going off in terms of work. I feel like I can't give this love and time you want.
It sounds like Tom is falling out of love with Darcey, which isn't unusual in the beginning of a dating relationship. It's possible that it's just wasn't meant to be, or the distance. It's also possible that the invasive feeling that he's been getting from Darcey has been eroding his goodwill for her. Unknown, maybe Tom will talk about it.
Yeah.
It's just like, what's the point? From my perspective and this juncture in my life, where I see it, I just prefer to be single and your friend.
Okay. So he just broke up with her, right? I want to be single and I want to be your friend. I hope Darcey's okay. This has got to be rough for her. Yikes.
I'm not looking for anyone else, but if you meet someone who's better than me or gives you more than what I can give you, then I'll be happy for you. You know that.
Okay, so that's a weird statement. He's saying, I'm not looking for anyone else, but if you meet someone better than me, then go with them. That's one of those ambiguous breakup messages that isn't very good for preoccupied people to deal with, because on one hand, it sounds like he wants to break up. On the other hand, it sounds like he's not going to pursue anyone else, and he's sort of still in a relationship with her or something. I don't know. It's to the preoccupied person, because they're so desperate for closeness, and they will idealize the other so greatly that if you have an ambiguous breakup message like that, they sometimes will go into denial about the aspects of the breakup that were clear. Like us watching this, it's like, oh, well, clearly he just broke up with her. He gave a little bit of some gray zone messages, but he just says he wants to be single and he wants her to just be a friend. So that's breaking up. But to the preoccupied person, because of that fear and the traumas about abandonment, the pursuing can just put blinders on and say, well, he did say that he's not going to see anyone else, and he's saying if I meet someone better, I should go with them, but that by default, that means I'm still with him. So we'll see how Darcey deals with this.
I feel like he's throwing it all away. I don't know why he doesn't want to make it work. It just hurts my heart.
Yes, Darcey, it hurts, and you're human. You're a human being. Of course, it hurts. You had a good time in England, and you really connected. You told each other you loved each other. There seemed to be a real connection there, and now that they are across the Atlantic from each other, it just seems to be over for him. We could speculate as to why that happened, but honestly, love is love, and it is what it is. We don't need to pathologize people and their hearts. So Tom, it appears, fell out of love, and that's just what happened, and that happens to anybody. Now, I'm guessing what some people would say is like, well, Tom is a dog. He just used her. He tricked her. He is manipulative, all these kinds of things. Maybe, but I didn't see any evidence of that. I mean, you could make a case for that, and maybe there's more data that they didn't show us. But from the data that they showed us, which is limited data, it looked to me like, and this is really a citizen perception, not a therapist, because as a therapist, I can't read people's minds. I'd have to ask Tom what was going on and really try to get to the bottom of his process with that. And there's just so much there that I just don't know. So as a therapist, I have no idea why Tom fell out of love or what his process was. As a citizen watching this, it looked to me, my eyes, and maybe it looked different to you, which is fine, was that Tom liked her in the beginning, but didn't love her. They spent a few weeks together in London and had a lot of great moments that they probably didn't show us on the TV show. And they grew really close, and he really did fall in love with her because Darcey is a very warm, loving person. And I could imagine that he could feel really good in that space. And there's probably somewhat of a pressure knowing that he's on a romantic reality TV show to speed things along. Who knows? We'd have to ask him. And then once they separated and they were on different continents, he, the feeling in his heart went away. And if the love was stronger, then it might have been, would have maintained itself regardless of being long distance. That's my guess, but who knows?
I don't know what I did for him not to love me.
So there it is, that repetitive behavior that exhibits an underlying schema of, it's my fault. There's something wrong with me. I don't know what I did to make him not love me. That points to, and many other things that she said, a schema, a core belief, if you will, that when things go wrong, it's because of her. This schema was probably developed early in life because lots of messages in her family blaming her for things. She might have been the scapegoat in her family. Her twin sister might have blamed her. Her parents, if there was an abandonment in the family, she might, without even anyone blaming her, kids tend to blame themselves. If there's a divorce in your parents and your dad moves to another state, kids inevitably will blame themselves. They'll be like, I wasn't good enough to keep my family together. I wasn't good enough to keep my dad close to me. It's a tragic thing that kids see the world that way. And there it is. Me watching this, I'm like, okay, well, he just fell out of love. But for Darcey, it's like, once again, I did something wrong to make this not work out.
I don't know what to say. It's fine. Well, hopefully we'll talk soon.
Bye now.
Dated Jesse for 2 years, and then it faded. So, here we go again.
Do you want to keep waiting though?
I don't know.
All right, people, please subscribe, hit the bell below. That would be great if you could do that. And also, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do. That does it for that episode. Tune in next time when we continue following Darcey's story.